Live from the Shabby Shack, in association with Liver and Bacon Productions, it's ATW Podcast.
Shabby Shack. Liver and Bacon. Shabby Shack.
ATW Podcast.
We are live. Okay, so welcome to the ATW Podcast. It's a great pleasure today on ATW Podcast 28 minutes plus. We'll stick a little plus in there just because there's always a chance we might just go a little bit over, but we're aiming for 28 minutes. I've got a guy on the show today called Josh Baker, and he has his own podcast called Podcast 34, and I was on it recently. And in essence, I'm repaying the favour because it was a great podcast. Hello, Josh.
Good evening or good morning.
Should we do one of those?
Yeah, we'll do. We got always do a handshake.
How civilised we are. How's podcast 34 coming on?
It's growing a lot quicker than I thought it was going to
It
grow.
is. Yeah.
It kind of started as a hobby. You and I had many drunken conversations.
We're always drunk. We
about this in various bars in Charminster.
Okay.
And then one day I was working away in December. Well, not too far, but I thought, well, let's give it a go.
Yeah.
And it's just rolled on from there. And
who was your first guest?
my very first guest was a very close friend of mine, Mike Brooks.
Mike Brooks. Okay, and what does Mike Brooks do?
So Paramike, big up Paramike. I worked with him during COVID. So he's an ex-Legionnaire, French Foreign Legion.
Amazing.
Ex-paratrooper, and he also does a lot of work in Africa. So he trains a lot of the anti-poaching rangers and various other things. So he was my first guest. And it was basically, we just recorded us chatting on our phone. And that was back in 2023.
Have you ever been in the forces?
No.
Because I know you've got a massive love for the forces, don't
Yeah,
you? I hear you talk a lot about the troops.
Yeah, that's when, again, going back a few years, I was at South Shields Marine School, and I was going through some not great times, blah, 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 and there's a chap there called Kenny Knott, again, another close friend of mine now. He's also been on the podcast. So he was in the Coldstream Guards, and he basically took me under his wing. He then got me involved with all the Justice for Northern Ireland veteran campaigns and things like that.
Yeah.
And that's where that sort of love has come from. And in my career within security and in my personal life, I've had a lot of help from people within the forces and that background. So
yeah, I mean, a lot of the time, if I didn't know, I would have thought immediately that you were an ex-serviceman that's gone into the civvy world, because you do talk that way, and I think it obviously rubs off on you.
I mean, I'll take that as a compliment.
It is a massive compliment.
I'll take that as a compliment.
No, I have I
just,
DJ a lot for the troops, and I have so much respect for the troops.
Yeah.
I've got family that were in the troops, and we got Marines, paras as well. I do have a love for the paras for some reason.
Yeah,
because they're just a little bit more badass.
Yeah.
They're dangerous, a little bit dangerous, aren't they? I got an absolute love for them. So you did your podcast. We were just talking before we went live about the tricks to give you the extra.
Yes.
So this hashtag thing doesn't work anymore.
Yeah. So actually today, funny enough, I've been in meetings all day with various people because I'm trying to take it to the next level.
Yeah.
So what I found out today is the hashtag system, or if you want to call it that,
Okay.
the algorithm was removed by most of the platforms.
When?
Apparently 2 years ago.
Wow, the amount of hashtags I've been doing in the last year.
I made sure I've done 30.
Hashtag positivity. Hashtag Shabby Shack. Hashtag Josh Baker.
Yeah.
It's like...
But apparently the reason why they removed it from the algorithms is because people were just putting completely irrelevant hashtags to get the followers that weren't related to their podcast. So it's all about keywords now, from what I've been informed. Okay.
Well, so Josh is basically spent most of his time, and you have, haven't you, in doing security stuff?
Yes.
So
last 5 years.
You pretty much have played. Well, you haven't played. You've been security at some of the biggest festivals, especially in the UK.
Yeah.
Have you got a favourite one?
My favourite one that I've ever worked would have been Pilot Download 2021.
2021.
Yeah.
I thought you were going to say the Isle of Wight Festival.
No, I know where you're going with that. But the reason why Download Pilot 2021 was because it was the first festival after lockdown.
Right, okay.
Everyone was just having a great time.
Where was it? Like straight after lockdown?
Yes, yeah. So we were technically still in lockdown, but it was one of the pilot ones. So what they were doing is
was it an illegal one?
No. It's a big festival. But what they were doing is there was various rules that you had to be tested before you went in.
Right. Yeah,
you do as LFTs and stuff like that. So it was a test run to see if the government could run.
Were there big
events.
names, man?
It's heavy metal. Heavy metal festival. So it's not my music per se. I don't mind a bit, but the people make it the best one. And that's where the podcast...
And was the atmosphere amazing?
Oh, it was incredible. I was on this bar called Rocktail Cocktail. There were some fantastic DJs there. They recorded me dancing away, and I had Security 34 on the back of my shirt. Hence podcast 34.
Hence podcast 34. So we've talked about this before, but I thought it was podcast 34 because you were 34 years old, but you're actually 32.
Yes.
Okay, so
I'm not
I gave you an extra 2 years there, didn't I? So where do you see yourself going in the next 5 years with the podcast? Who would you ideally like to be interviewing? Because I know you've got a very political mind, right?
Yes.
You've got a massive passion for the servicemen, but you also do love music and entertainers as well.
So I love geopolitics and politics as a whole, and we've had many discussions over various things about that. But
sometimes we've really agreed,
and sometimes we've disagreed.
Sometimes weve really disagreed as well, and sometimes you've set me straight on a couple of things as well. I must admit, and I will give you that. Someone that was actually watching our last podcast did say to me, "Wow, that guy and." He's really, really intelligent. He doesn't believe in himself enough. But she was talking about you.
We'll clip that.
Dude, seriously, it was really. They actually said, well, he's got way more to give than he actually knows. And you do come out with some. Well, it's a bit like, let's put it this way. This weekend we were talking about Zelensky and Trump.
Yes.
And I actually said, well, why didn't he dress up? He should have done. And you said,
well, so going back in history, Sir Winston Churchill, when he visited the White House, didn't wear a suit because his country is at war.
It really annoyed me when you said that to me on the phone yesterday, because I was ready to argue with you a lot, and then I googled it, and then I saw the image of him in his military wear or whatever he wore. I don't know what it was he was wearing.
It was so what he actually wore was his boiler. Well, it was like a boiler suit.
It was like a boiler suit. It was even worse than what Zelensky was wearing.
It was his air raid shelter suit. So it's what you would put on in the air raid to keep you warm. Because if you're in the middle of the night and you've got nothing on, or your boxers or something like that, you're going to be freezing.
Your boxers.
You're going to be freezing in middle of January in England.
Okay.
So that's actually what it was.
You've been quite a pro-Trumper for a while, haven't you?
I wouldn't say I'm pro.
You definitely weren't anti,
but I wasn't. At
the time when I did my podcast with you. You were definitely quite pro and fascinated that I'd worked with him.
Yeah, because we were kind of on the same wavelength. I can understand the criticism he got. Yeah, and I can kind of see why he was. And I've got some friends that are across the pond as well, so I try and get it from their perspective.
Yeah,
so I can understand why he won, and I can also understand why people don't like him. And then we watched that interview. I think the world watched that interview, and I was a bit.
What you mean, like Zelensky and Trump?
Zelensky,
yeah,
and I wasn't.
You weren't impressed?
No, I think it was mismanaged from the start. Whether that's deliberate or not, that's up for debate.
See, the only thing I would say, personally, I think they decided they were going to get him before he'd arrived.
Yeah, I think that's.
There is that, isn't there?
That's the common consensus. That seems to be.
The other thing to really remember with Donald Trump and Zelensky, they're both TV stars that did it for many, many years. They know the media so well.
That's true.
And what I'm seeing in the next, my prediction is in the next 2 weeks, there'll be a really good deal and they'll be friends. Because the way Trump works, and I say that having actually worked for him and so forth. I wasn't very important when I was working for him, but I was a production assistant there. But I do know he loves an argument.
Yeah.
But he'll happily have an argument and make friends again an hour later. Yeah. And I think he did enjoy bullying him. There is no doubt. There was a lot of bullying going on there. But I also do agree with that there does need to be a peace deal.
Yes, there does need to be a peace deal, and I don't think there's anyone that wants this war to continue. But to call Zelensky a dictator, and then meet the aggressor before the aggressee, I think was not diplomatically the right thing to do. So if you had imagined Roosevelt sitting down with Hitler first, and then telling Churchill, you need to do a peace deal with Hitler and agree to give them Scotland or agree to give them the Isle of Wight or something like that, how would have that gone down?
I don't think, Hitler actually did declare war on Roosevelt, didn't he? That's the difference. On the 8th of December 1941, Hitler actually sent a telegram to the White House declaring war on America, which is why then America got involved. Putin has not declared war on America.
No, not
at all.
Not
or England or any other country than Ukraine.
And then there's always the argument. I don't think it's an argument. I think it's pretty obvious. Vladimir Putin is ex-KGB. He has a love for the USSR. It's open source information. He loved the Soviet Union. He wants to put Humpty Dumpty back together. That's, I think, relatively obvious. It was expected that Ukraine was going to fall within 24 to 48 hours. Zelensky was offered a evacuation from the Biden administration. He turned it down, which I think is one of the reasons why people managed to fought so hard, especially in that initial period. Boris Johnson was very vocal at the build-up, because if we go back to 2021, obviously there was a training exercise around the border. Everyone believed the Russian line of, it's just a training ex, because we do the same. NATO do training exercises on the Russian border. So nothing to worry about. For whether Boris Johnson got intelligence from GCHQ or various intelligence services, I don't know. But he seemed to be a bit more concerned than all the other world leaders. Started getting a load of Ukrainians over, training them, giving them kit. And then obviously the invasion started. So what we done, managed to get them to hold the line for that 24 to 48 hours. And then Europe and America then jumped in and gone, okay, we need to do something about this.
How do you think Keir Starmer's dealing with all of it?
I am not a fan of Keir, like probably 90% of the country, various reasons.
Yeah.
However, how he's dealt with the whole Zelensky situation, I don't think I can fault him, really, because he's given Zelensky the support, which he needs to support, but he's also telling Zelensky to go back to Trump and patch things up.
Yeah, which did you see he sent I think one big mistake Zelensky made was trying to speak English to Trump, because his English just wasn't good enough.
See, I thought
that was really silly and arrogant, actually.
I wouldn't say it's arrogant.
Well, I thought it was, because he clearly can't speak English that well, and he was pretending he could understand stuff that he actually couldn't understand.
If you go to a country, I've just been to Romania.
Yeah.
Had a great time. That's a different topic, but we're
glad though. We're glad you had a good time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I always try and at least get a couple of words like thank you, please, and stuff like that.
Yeah.
I think it's always respectful to try and learn the language of the country you're going to.
But I'm sure if you were meeting the actual leader of the country, you would have made sure you had a translator with you.
I maybe have a translator, but I would try and convey my message in that.
Notice this. I almost wonder whether Keir Starmer's given him the advice to have a translator, because now all his videos are actually in his own language with a nice English accent doing it on top. And I'm not saying it should be an English accent for those of you out there that are going to complain about what I'm saying, but it should be well spoken and understood. And sadly, his English was quite ugly. It was a really ugly English where he was talking, and it was sounding really dirty. It made him worse than he actually was. I think he was very unfortunate in the situation. That said, do I think JD Vance and Trump were bullies? Yes, a little bit. They definitely had their moment and thought, we're going to get this guy before he gets a chance to budge.
This whole narrative about Zelensky's pushing for World War III, I can't see where that's coming from, because if Ukraine fell within that 24 to 48 hours that we're just talking about, Putin would have gone into the Baltics.
I don't think he's pushing for World War III. I think he's just a bit. The problem is, I think when you've got a young leader, when you've got a young political leader. They're just that little bit more ambitious in the sense of, yes, we will keep fighting. We'll keep fighting. If you've got anybody over 60 that's a world leader, they don't usually want war. They don't usually want it. They do want money, but they don't really want war. And I think Zelensky's got balls of steel. There is no doubt.
Russia's come into his. If we look at Russia's history in the last 10 years,
I would say Zelensky hasn't used as much wisdom as necessary.
So 2014, Russia annexed Crimea. Nothing really happened. There was a few speeches in the UN and G7 and various organisations and the EU, but there was no real consequences for Russia. 2017, 2018, people forgot that. 2018-19, Russia, through the Kremlin, bringing Novichok into the United Kingdom, one of the most deadliest chemical weapon. A British citizen gets murdered on UK soil. Dawn, can't remember her surname. Her name was Dawn. And bless her, she just turned her life around. She hadn't had a great life. She just turned around.
That was from the perfume.
Yeah, perfume in Salisbury. Her boyfriend at the time found the bottle, thought it was perfume, gave it to her. She sprayed it on. She's got no chance. By sheer dumb luck, I'll say sheer dumb luck. The great, the great emergency services, Wiltshire Police, and Environmental Health, they managed to contain it very quickly. So, but that could have been millions.
There was actually a show on ITV all about that, wasn't there? There was,
it's a really good document. I think it's BBC on iPlayer. The Salisbury poisoning. It's a really accurate depiction of what happened.
It was brilliant.
So then that happens again. Nothing really happens. A few diplomats get expelled from Washington and London. That's about it. 2021, he then invades Ukraine. So this whole narrative, he won't carry on. Well, Hitler said he won't carry on after Czech Republic.
Did he say that?
Pretty much.
I don't think so.
Yeah.
But Hitler did keep invading other countries.
He kept going.
And actually, there has never really been... There is usually peace between Russia and America.
Yeah, that's...
even down to the Cold War, it was still...
I mean, it got dicey,
Russia there.
But...
It got dicey, but it was still always an agreement.
Yeah.
And it's really... I mean... I get the point with Zelensky that he wants to make sure it's definitely certain. Well, it is certain if the states are getting involved, but you can't possibly have a war. He can't possibly win without America.
No,
really.
No.
I mean, he's.
But again, people don't really understand what he was asking for. So what the deal was, obviously, Zelensky was going to sign away 50% of his minerals and natural resources to America. So that's a big investment. That's a big deal. Imagine America giving away 50% of their oil, or the Saudis giving away 50% of their oil. They're entitled to have a bit of say with that. All he wanted was, okay, if I do this deal, I want a guarantee that my country is going to be safe from further invasions.
Right, but when you've got the states doing that to a certain degree, that is kind of
but
a really good certainty.
You want it in writing.
This is where I do have.
Yeah.
I do want.
But for me,
Trump is a phenomenal marketeer and a phenomenal TV star, and so was Zelensky in his own right. Somehow or another, I wouldn't be surprised in a couple of weeks if suddenly there's this amazing deal and it's just absolutely sorted and it's okay, and somehow, because it was almost like. And we might look back on. I really hope this is the case. And they might look back at that thing on Friday and think, because what was his final words?
Yeah.
Trump's final words were, "This is going to make great TV."
Yeah. Well, everyone wants the war to end.
Everyone,
but we can't. But Ukraine shouldn't end the war ceding their land. Yeah, they're, and obviously Russia. Putin's going to be looking for a way out because the whole thing's been bodged. He's got one of the biggest armies in the world, allegedly. He's been trying to push into Ukraine for 3 years. Hasn't really made any significant ground. Didn't get to Zelensky. Didn't get to Kiev in the way that he wanted to, as in capture it. So
some might argue that's because of the Americans helping, though.
Well, yes. But it's not American or British boots on the ground. There's not NATO boots on the ground. Yes, it's British, American, German, Romanian, Polish, etc. kit and training, but it's the Ukrainians that are fighting.
I mean, the one thing about Kiev, bringing it over to Kiev for a second, is there's no doubt within the last few days that what Kiev's done...
Let's release the sausage rolls.
within the last 3 days, he's made Great Britain part of Europe again in a way that they weren't part of Europe since Brexit.
Yeah, well, it's quite ironic that Donald Trump has managed to unite Europe in the way that no one's done for a long time.
Yeah, I mean, Keir is being a bridge there.
Yeah.
I mean, bridges do get trodden on.
Yeah.
You know, but yeah. So listen, let's go back to your security work and lighten this up a touch. So I know that when you did the Isle of Wight festival, you got to see one of your heroes,
Robbie Williams.
Yeah. Did you actually get to meet him?
No, I didn't. No, unfortunately not.
Was it a great show?
Fantastic. He is a great showman. It's the second time I've seen him. I've seen him before as just a normal punter.
Yeah.
He's just a great showman.
Yeah.
He's a very good. His stage presence is excellent. And yeah.
Do you travel like to different countries to do your security stuff as well?
I've not too much. I've done a bit in Saudi.
Yeah.
I've been lucky enough to go out to Saudi.
Was that recent?
That was 2022.
2022.
End of 2022.
I know you were going out. Where were you going out back in October?
Yeah. I went out with a friend. But yeah, that was a really good time.
It was nice.
I went to Jeddah, which is beautiful. So you've got Dubai, which is basically a rich playground and it's all superficial. And then you've got Jeddah, which is like Saudi's equivalent, and it's a lot nicer. It's a lot cheaper. There's a lot more cultural heritage there as well. So
yeah, okay. Yeah. Where did you just recently get back from again?
Romania.
You did a great video.
Yeah.
How was it?
Oh, it's fantastic. So I've got one of my best friends, which is Christina.
Yeah.
So I met Christina. I just came out of a bad breakup, a really bad breakup, really nasty one. Met her in the bar we won't mention, where I met you.
Yeah.
The worst bar in Charminster.
I'm actually playing there again on the 12th of April, but anyway, I don't care.
We won't.
You've got to realise with that specific.
Sorry, Marav.
We'll say the name. Well, yeah, but we will say the name. It was called Saxo Bar. But to be honest with you, I played there 7 years and I learned a lot of my craft there. So I'm going to be forever grateful for that bar for that reason.
Again, I will be grateful for the friends that it gave. Well, I say friends, the friend. There's a couple of other friends
we do not do negativity on the ATW podcast, do we, Steve?
No. I'm being positive. I'm being positive.
Yeah.
So there's a couple of friends that I got from that. So you, John Turner, and Christina are probably the main.
We didn't get on when we first met, though, did we?
No, we'll come on to that in a second. Funny enough, I had this conversation today.
Did you?
Yeah.
Oh, really? With who?
Grant.
Oh, with Grant.
Yeah.
Who you said that I've met before.
Yeah.
Okay.
So anyway, going back to the Romania,
to
the Romania thing. So I met Christina. Well, I was going through a bad breakup. I think she just came out of one.
Right.
But we just gelled, and then we became really close. And then we went for breakfast one morning in the Harvester a few weeks ago. And funny enough, I just got back from Kosovo or Albania. I think it might have been Albania I just got back from.
Okay.
And she's like, I'm going to Romania for, because she's Romanian, for my christening, for my niece's christening. I was like, oh, that's cool. And we're just chatting. And then she's like, oh, wouldn't you come out? And I was like, yeah, 100%.
Was it your first night? First time going there?
Yes. Second.
So, yeah.
So going back to Ukraine, I took aid to Ukraine during the war and we drove through Romania then. But yeah, it was my second time going, but it was the first time I could actually...
I didn't know you did that. That's amazing.
Yeah, we could come on to that in a second if you want. But yeah, so it was the first time that I'd been there and could sort of put my head down, so to speak.
Okay.
But yeah, I met her family. They're all really nice, lovely, beautiful country. And then I met another friend that I worked with during COVID, a guy called Marin.
Yeah.
Brilliant guy, fantastic guy. So... when we were on the test site, you basically go to each position and you're there for an hour and you're with someone else and you just chew the fat. And he was telling me about he's bought a plot of land in Romania and he wants to turn it into a quad biking thing and a cabin for people to stay and all this. So when I was out there, I messaged him saying, hey, I'm in Romania. He's like, no way. So, and he was in Cluj, which was only an hour away from where I was. So I jumped on the train. And I just expected to go and see him for a coffee. Okay. Just have a coffee and a catch up and that was it. It was like, he put me up for the night. He took me out quad biking, and then I also found out he became the deputy mayor of the village, and he was doing. We went out and we had to. So one of the jobs that day is one of the water wasn't going to one of the houses on the top of the mountain, so we had to fix that. But that was fantastic.
So let's go back to the Ukraine relief thing. When was that? What year?
So this was 2022.
2020. What? Right when it kicked
Yeah,
off?
this was right when it kicked off. So a chap who is now a friend of mine, Jay, he put on Facebook, he's basically looking for a driver's mate to go out with him just to assist with little things.
Okay, was it just the two of you?
Just the two of us. So
how long did it take to get there?
3 or 4 days, I'm going to say.
4 days, okay.
Yeah, so we went France, Belgium, Austria, Hungary, Romania.
Okay.
I think that was pretty much the route. We stopped off at Hungary, had a great time, got my phone stolen, but still had a great time.
Oh no!
Yeah.
Okay. How did it feel when you actually drive into Ukraine?
So when we were on the trip, it was like, I know it sounds quite morbid, but it was like a lad's trip away.
Yeah.
Like we were having fun, having a laugh, blah, blah,
I
blah.
bet there was a sense of excitement.
Yeah, it was. Yeah. Then obviously when we got to the border, which we didn't record anything at the border, because I think it's a bit insensitive, it sort of hit home that this could, and then bearing in mind, this is right at the start as well. So we were thinking this could go off because all along the border was NATO troops, anti-tank weapons, anything you can think of, like right to the line of the border. Because everyone expected Ukraine to fall within that week and Putin to push into Romania, Poland, etc., etc.
Right.
And thankfully, that never happened. But to see it was quite...
How long were you out there for then?
2 weeks.
So where did you stay when you were there?
We just stayed in various Airbnbs, hotels, whatever we could
So
find.
it's safe to do that sort of stuff then?
Relatively. Obviously, it has its risks, but it was relatively safe. We weren't hanging around.
No.
For obvious reasons.
Where were you staying then when you were doing the Airbnbs? Well, I mean, what would you do at night? Would you just be hiding away, or what would you?
No. We'll just find like a place to stay, like a bed and breakfast, and then stay the night and then go again.
Listen, we're going to go, and we've got to go in a second. This is 28 minutes.
Wow, that was quick.
I don't know where we're at. We got 3 more minutes. 3 more minutes. That's good. We've got 3 more minutes. We've not even mentioned your DJing. You're actually a DJ as well.
Well, a DJ's a bit of a stretch.
Well, a little bit. Well, you DJ regularly.
Yeah, so I every now and then when I'm in England, so I DJ at my bar in Charminster because we haven't mentioned Marav, who's a great person. So yeah, so it's more of a hobby that I enjoy, and then it's something I'll do on the side. Yeah,
well, so you got the security, you got the podcast, and you got the DJ. So you asked me a question that was brilliant on podcast 34, and I thought, oh, that's really good. Yeah, okay. So December 31st, 2025. You asked me where I would be. And actually, I don't know. I found a really healthy question because it suddenly just shot stuff out. Yeah. Where are you going to be?
So hopefully my plan, my objective is to earn a bit of money out of the podcast.
Yeah.
And
you're sharing almost every day, right? You're doing something.
Yes, trying to do something every day.
And how important is that? Because sometimes, have you got any advice for anyone that's doing podcasts?
I have everything I've done up to date is everything I've done on my own: editing, recording, filming, booking the guests.
Yeah,
everything I've done. I did have a friend with mine, but logistically, it's just not.
And you do it all on a laptop afterwards,
laptop or my phone and stuff like that. So today I met an old friend of mine that I actually met doing the doors, and she's just started her own social media optimization company. So we sat down today. I sort of told her what my ambitions are, what I want to achieve, and she gave me little pointers.
That's brilliant.
It's going to put me a plan together.
Yeah.
And go so we can sort of elevate it.
But she also said every day post something.
Yeah, and then what was quite interesting because I didn't want to what I thought would be oversharing, thinking people would get bored. But her advice was, if you can post 10 times a day, do it. The more you post, the better, because 6 posts might not hit. 1 post might.
It's weird, isn't it? Because I suppose you would think back in the day, if someone was on TV too much, you'd think, oh, that's overexposure. But I suppose social media is different because there's so much flying around. Okay, back to the question though. So, podcast, you want it to grow?
So I want it to grow. So I want to get a bit of money out of it. I don't want to curse it too much. I haven't told many people, but I've just.
Do you know what you should?
Not about that. But I'm talking to a nice young lady who's.
We're talking personal life now.
Yeah, so
romance.
So she is a doctor.
Yeah.
From the States.
Oh.
And we have loosely talked about going to Vegas in December because that's where she's from.
Marriage. You're going to get married. I'm really good at weddings, Josh. That's seriously.
You never know. I kind of had it's a bit strange. At the start of the year, I kind of had this epiphany, right? I'm not going to settle down. It's too far gone for me now. But
hang on, you're 32. What are you talking about?
But I was like, but this is not a negative story. But I thought to myself, well, I don't have children. I don't have high expenditure. What can I do? I was like, right, I'll go traveling. Okay. So that's where and then we're in March. So I've done 5 countries, 4 new ones already.
That's brilliant.
Poland in order: Poland, Albania, Kosovo, North Macedonia, Romania, and I recommend any of them to go and visit.
So what? So we want the podcast to grow?
Podcast to grow.
And maybe marriage in Vegas.
Maybe not.
Will she watch this?
Yeah.
What's her name?
Megan.
Hi, Megan. Where is she?
At the moment, she's flying back from Czech.
Flying back from Czech
to the UK.
To the UK. So she's living here?
Yeah, she lives here.
She's in the South Coast?
Barnstable.
Barnstable.
But she wants to move into Bournemouth because for some reason she likes Bournemouth.
So she's an American doctor and you're going to go to Vegas and get married in December and I'm going to be a DJ.
Maybe not the marriage thing, but yeah.
Man, thank you very much.
It's
been an absolute pleasure. And ATW Podcast, thank you very much to Josh Praker. Please follow him on Podcast 34 on YouTube and also Facebook, right?
Yes. Yeah.
YouTube and Facebook. Thank you.